blessed morning to you out there. The program is the Dailies on Echo Television International, where we keep you updated with what is happening from the papers. Today being the 31st of July 2023. A lot to talk about on the paper, some of the demands of NLC, also, Tinubu talking tough on the coup that is taking place presently in Niger as the ECOWAS chairman. Quite a lot for us to, take you through the paper. So we'll encourage you to please keep tight, sit tight on your chairs, and then just keep your fingers crossed. I am Sela Elisha Dashem, and I'll be doing this together with Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Morning, Sela.
How was the weekend?
It was fine. How was yours?
Fine. You do great this morning.
Thank you very much, Sela.
Thanks, dear. All right, let's go through the papers, starting with the Vanguard newspaper.
On Vanguard, 5 killed in Adamawa as hoodlums loot government and private warehouses for food items. Tinubu commends AIG Omokide Foundation's Endowment Fund for Civil Service Development. You can find more details on page 27. Federal government remains major threat to airline survival. The statement coming from an expert. Foster partnership with foreign operators. A statement coming from NCAA. You can find more details on page 19. The big story on Vanguard: subsidy removal, Nigeria on brink of collapse. Coming from the Catholic bishops, says palliatives never a cure for any economic challenge. Asks federal government to identify those who swindle Nigeria through fuel subsidy and bring them to justice. Notes Nigerians cannot suffer for corruption of a few people. Address workers, Nigerians paying NECA, urges the federal government. One strike, mass protest may cause breakdown of law and order and kill businesses. Presidency keeps mum. You can find more details of the big story inside the paper. Still on Vanguard, World Finance Banking Award, Zenith Bank wins Best Commercial Bank in Nigeria. ECOWAS give Niger Republic coup plotters 1 week to restore Bazoum as president. Hostile business environment, foreign investment in manufacturing fall 51% to $978.3 million. Tinubu appoints special investigators to probe CBN-related entities. More details can be found on page 8. We have a picture story showing our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu with other stakeholders at the ECOWAS meeting on Niger Republic. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at Daily Independent newspaper. Zenith Bank maintains place as Nigerian best commercial bank with the right of flowing. The story says named the best corporate governance bank at the World France 2023 awards. You can find detail of the story on the front page and continue inside the paper. Still on Daily Independent newspaper, we have no court order against NLC August 2nd strike. Protest, Falana tells the federal government. You can find detail of this back and forth where NLC are saying they insist on the strike coming up on Wednesday. You read detail of that inside the paper. We'll talk a little about it subsequently. Still on Daily Independent, there's little CBN can do to tame supply-induced inflation. With the rider, EIU says CBN control exchange rate coming back soon. You can find more of the story inside the paper. 7 dead as Fitri imposed 24-hour curfew on Adamawa. Nnamdi Kanu only guaranteed access to personal doctors under DSS supervision coming from sources. Amid Emiferes trial, Tinubu appoints special investigator to probe CBN. You can find that on page 7. And of fuel subsidy removal, Forex regime yielding positive results coming from Tinubu. Shehu signing lead campaign against El-Rufai ministerial nomination, with the rider Islamic scholars ask Senate not to confirm El-Rufai. Find detail of that story on page 6. And we have here ECOWAS threatening military intervention in Niger Republic, with the rider give Kupsis 7 days to restate President Bazoum, and also orders no-fly zone on commercial flight to and from Niger Republic. Also, we have warned against military intervention by regional bloc. This is still coming from the people actually leading the coup. And then we have on the paper NDLE arrests artisan manager businessman who sell drug at Lagos clubs. You can find more of that story on page 6. We have the picture story here showing you when Zenith Bank collected their award in France. You can find detail of the story, and that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On the Daily Times, ECOWAS gave Niger Cupid 7 days to restore ousted president or face war. Slam crippling economic sanction. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 5. The big story on the paper, ministerial list state APC chieftains question Tinubu and governors intensify lobbying. You can find more details on page 4. How domestic airlines are addressing over $2 billion capital flight. Court orders Okoa government to account for 200 billion naira UBEC funds. The writer under the story will appeal, says ex-governor's camp. It's work of enemies coming from Delta State government. At the downside of the paper, still on Tinubu's ministerial list, is same assemblage of failed recycled forces and anti-democratic elements coming from Labour Party. More details can be found on page 10, and that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Voice of Liberty. Still on the issue of Emifele, Tinubu named special investigator to probe CBN. You can find more of the story inside the paper. Coming from Imo State, we have CNG raises alarm over burning of structures, asset, unprovoked eviction of northerners. You can find more of the story inside the paper. And also on the nationwide strike, Stockholm with food, medicine and others, Labour urges Nigerians. Expect more tough policy measures to enable Nigerians as part of effort to promote a cleaner environment and a healthy lifestyle. The Federal Ministry of Transportation has advised Nigerians to consider bicycles as alternative means of commuting. ECOWAS imposed no-flight zone on Niger Republic, give Juta 1 week to cede power. Coming from Kaduna State, 6 feared dead as suspended bandit kidnapped 40 farmers in Brunungwari. You can find more inside the paper. War alert, don't send troops to Niger, coup leader tell ECOWAS. You can find more of that story inside the paper. And coming from Taraba State, 2 killed as residents invade warehouse for palliative loot grains, 24 hours curfew declared in Adamawa State. And I think it's important we pick up the story and talk about it, Rachel. Personally, if you ask me, I think the name hoodlums is quite, aggressive. Yeah. Because these are hungry Nigerians.
They are.
If we could take our minds back to what happened during the COVID, where food relief materials were being given to various states to give to their indigents, give to citizens. But we saw where a lot of states refused to do that. Rather, we had when they covered the states, it was in key and lock, and then residents were unable to get. And that was what led to people breaking into warehouses, stealing of palliative, looting it. In fact, I remember when that happened in Plateau State precisely, a number of people lost their life. A lot of people were unconscious. Why? Because people were just trying to survive. And I'm seeing that same thing playing out again in Adamawa State. Of course, if the governor have, declared 24 hours curfew, and they said they want to probe into the hoodlums, people who loot that. But Rachel, if you recall when we've been talking about the hardship Nigerians are going through, we said it's a matter of time that when people are being pushed to the wall, something will happen. We are not here encouraging that whatsoever. This is very bad on the people who did that. That is really criminal of them to have also do that. But then we're looking at some of the reasons that lead to people doing certain things. We remember here we said that a hungry man is an angry man, and an angry man can do anything just to survive. So I really do not know what the government is going to do. This is just one state we are having. And we know the way the palliative issue was when people broke into warehouses. It started from one side, and before we realized it, other states were beginning to take effect. We had that in Lagos. We had that in other parts of the country. People breaking into warehouses just so they could steal grains and the rest of it. I remember that when it happened in Plateau State, they said, please, people who stole grains should please return it, because these are grains that have been had chemicals on it. They are planning to do this and that and that. Of course,
Excuses.
government will always come up with reasons why people
Yes.
shouldn't do certain things. But we shouldn't give people a reason to end up going into criminal act just because they want to survive.
True.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that beyond just 24-hour curfew, what is the governor of Adamawa State going to do about bringing up something that will actually cushion the effect of this? We've seen a number of states like that of Imo and Kwara State seeing how they can increase salary, giving their workers maybe 10,000
Allowances.
naira
Yeah.
hardship allowance. And it's little, but then it can go
It goes a
a
long
long
way.
way to do something for, the indigents of that state. So what are other states hoping to do about that? I'm asking this question. What is Port Harcourt going to do about that? What is Plateau State going to do about that? What is Kaduna State going to do about that?
Yes.
On the papers already, we're seeing that some farmers were being killed in their farm. And these are the things we've been talking about here, Richard, the fact that
Yes.
we need to make sure that, okay, the government is not ready to do something. I think for the past 1 week or so, the talk coming from the president now turned out to be like a joke when he said let the poor breathe. And I listened when the Senate were laughing. And of
Yes,
course, a lot of
about
people
it.
came and said, what is funny about that
There's nothing
statement?
funny
If you
about
look
it,
at it, the poor cannot breathe because of a lot of policy are coming. The president is even saying we should prepare for more tough policies coming. But if you tell people to prepare, what are you hoping to do? I remember on Friday we were talking about when the government is saying we should start using of bicycles.
Yes.
And I see the same question we're still going to ask. The roads, are they there?
Are they there for bicycles?
What are you hoping to do? Our leaders, are they leading by example?
Yeah.
Because I'm hoping to see where the Senate president will
Yeah.
be driving
Right
to the house for,
Exactly.
I'm hoping to see even that of the House of Representatives. I'm hoping to even see even the president trying to exercise from Asovida down to the plate. These are a lot of things Nigerians will say they want to see. So I'm really not encouraging what happened in Adamawa State.
course not,
And
Celine.
I totally kick against that. We kick against that.
Yes.
But I'm just calling on the government. Let's sit down and reason together. If you're telling Nigerians to prepare, what are you giving them for them to use for the meantime while other things are happening? CBN are saying there's nothing they can do about induced inflation. They keep increasing interest rates. So for you and I who want to take loan from the commercial bank, we have to prepare for something better. So I really do not know, but I truly hope that the government are really doing something. It's already, today is the end of July, August is starting. And that palliative was supposed to start from July down to December. So right now we're left with just 5 months. So I really don't know, Rachel, at this point.
Of course, Sarah, we cannot support or say they did the right thing. That's not the point we are trying to make. A crime is a crime regardless of what action led to that type of reaction. It is what it is. It's a crime and they should face the law for it. However, it is a reaction to what is happening in the country. And these are people who live from hand to mouth. If you watch these people and you see these young men, precisely I will put it, these are people that survive daily on what the economy gives to them. These are probably people pushing wheelbarrow in the market, carrying loads for people. You know that these are not well-employed people or steady job business owners and all of that. You could tell that these are hungry people because some of them didn't even have the strength to run. So obviously they went to try and get what they would eat and they didn't even get the chance to have the energy to run. So yes, it is a sad thing seeing what is happening in the country, but it just shows that the government is not getting it right as it is now. You can't combine certain policies together. It's just going to be an explosion, and this is the result of that kind of explosion. We always have a government that are not quick to come into the situation of people. Imagine if the government of that state or at the federal government has started disbursing this palliative and aids and help. No matter how little it is, trust me, we won't see this happening because help came quickly. But we are waiting. It's the same thing with the COVID-19. You have been given these palliatives to give out to people. Are you waiting for them to die of hunger before you start giving it to them? Or is this not a situation that there's supposed to be quick action to it? So this is where the government of Nigeria keeps failing us. The things that they are supposed to react quickly, give a solution there and then. Like, there shouldn't be any waste of time. By now there should be aids out there for people, palliative. People should have already started receiving something from the government by now, ever since, even before now, concerning palliatives, and nothing is being done. And you are waiting for the chaos, you're waiting for whatever reaction will come up on people. And then this is where I believe the government keeps failing us as a country. And I just hope that they wake up and do the needful, because this is not a joke. It is no joke for people going to sleep hungry. It can be a joke for them because they don't go to sleep hungry. They don't feed from hand to mouth. They don't wait for people to come to the market for them to make a living. There are people who depend on people to come to the market. And when those people don't come to the market, they can go to sleep hungry. So yes, they might not understand it, but I hope that they do open their ears to listen and act quickly.
You know, Richard, still on this paper, we're seeing where Labour is urging Nigerians to stock home with food, medicine, and others because of the strike.
Yes.
And they have a number of demands that they have made. There's a message they have actually set out there for people
yes,
to know that this is the reason they want to actually embark on that strike. And
strike,
I'd like to take the message a little, where they said the first message here NLC is given in the fact that March for survival of Nigeria with Nigerians. They also say Nigerians need no anti-people policy. Some of the policies, Labour feels that it is anti-people. Federal government should adopt the CNG as alternative to fuel. We've seen a number of states actually doing that for, you know, their workers to go to work. Also, they're saying federal government, why protect subsidy criminals? Today, we're asking for the names of people who actually benefited from it and ate the money. Increase in fuel prices equal to increase in poverty and criminality. And we've seen that criminality where people are beginning to get into warehouses that belong to government to steal stock, and this is really what is happening right now. 8,000 naira palliative to household, an insult to Nigerians. We call on federal government to implement people-centered agreement reached with organized labor, insists increase in fuel price responsible for inflation, poverty, and unemployment. We condemn increase in school fees over the weekend. In fact, I'll be hearing of that. People even made joke. I remember one lady said that imagine me paying 160,000 to study zoology, something that my compound or in my area there are a lot of goats I can study, because Nigerians just have this way of making light of issues no matter how hard it is. But we are not going to deny the fact that things are not going well, Rachel. So just imagine, for instance, you're paying over 160, and then maybe for someone who's studying medicine, and that of that, we know theirs is always higher than. So imagine, Rachel, and then we know somebody came out to say that we know those courses. When you fail one, is a reciprocate course. You have to have an extra year. And we have a lot of lecturers that are already frustrating the lives of students.
We have.
So this are part of the thing NLC is talking about. They are refusing to the increase of school fees, even though the presidency came out. Daily, like he's saying that no, tuition fees still free.
Remains,
but then with this increase of Sundry and the rest of it, a lot of things that are increasing, I really do not know how the federal government can still insist that tuition free is free, because believe you me, with this increase, a lot of people will have to put their education on pause. And you know, they begin to ask, is that why the president was giving the student loan for September? Loan that Nigerians are not even sure that they will get employment after service. A lot of things are really not going well, and I think they have a number of, you know, messages the NLC is saying, and quite a lot to actually digest, quite a lot to actually chew. But Richard, is my desire, if Labour are saying we should stock our home with medicine and drug, with which money?
What exactly?
The question, where is the money? Just recently, remember, you and I were going through the papers, was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, where we saw that pharmaceutical products have increased
50% increase.
Rachel, that is my concern. So how do you want Nigerians to do that? A lot of things are really not sitting well, honestly, Richard. And this face is really ugly, the face of the way things are moving.
It is.
But I'm just hoping the government really know what they are doing. And I just hope that they swift into action to do something quick. Really, because when people are being pushed, I'm beginning to picture the NSAS issue, where Nigerians had to take matters into their hand. Rachel, mind you, NLC are not fighting for you and I. They are fighting for civil servants. They are fighting for teachers. They are not fighting for you and I. But one thing we need to know is the fact that when it affects one person, it affects
affects
all of us
everybody.
because we
Yeah.
all use fuel.
We do.
So imagine if we have our local industries, our local refineries working, and then we have our domestic crude oil here. We'll not be going through all of this thing. And these are the things that people were saying. Why didn't the government put that in place before considering all of that? So quite a lot to
And
take
honestly, Sela, this is what makes me wonder if they do know what they're doing. Because the question is, we hope the government knows what they're doing. We're waiting to see the next step the government takes. But every step they take, not to be rude, turns out to be rubbish. So it makes me wonder, like, do they know what they're doing, Sela? Because there are certain policy that common sense, with all the resources and the intelligent people you have to give you all the advice, should know that they don't work together, okay? We cannot be yet producing our own oil 100%. We're still importing it and then still float our currency and not knowing whether it will be long term or short term before our currency start having some value. We're keeping it in the hands of investors and exporters and then expect things to be going on smoothly. And that's why I love what NLC said. This feels like anti-people policy, because even if we're not having our fuel pump prices going high, as long as the dollar keeps going up, there's still going to be inflation. Now, what makes it worse is the combination of these both, like the two of it together. So I keep wondering, do they know what they're doing? Okay, fine, you've made a mess of whatever policy you're implementing because it's not going on well. What is the next step? Is to step into people's affair and reduce hardship. And even at that, you're not doing that. So they keep doing things that make me wonder, do they really know what they're doing? Because that's the question. Because we can't keep saying we're waiting to see what the government. The question is to ask them, do they know what they're doing? Because it honestly don't feel like that, because everything that they're giving us don't feel good, feels more and more confused and like we're heading nowhere. So I hope that the government know what they're doing, and if they don't, they can retrace back their steps and start fixing those policies that at this time is not going well. And then we will see that probably if they are tracking things backward, perhaps we will start seeing something positive. But as it is now, Sele, it feels like they don't know what they're doing.
Well, Richard, let's save the rest of the chats for later on. I think that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
All right, let's look at Nigerian News Direct. On Nigerian News Direct, World Finance Banking Awards 2023, Zenith Bank retains position as Nigeria's best commercial bank 3 years in a row. The big story, no going back on August 2nd nationwide protest coming from Labour, and they are insisting. Issues advisory to Nigerians in preparation. No court order stopping us from embarking on peaceful protest. NLC is telling the federal government. NECA predicts increase in unemployment and poverty if strike proceeds. Economist backs federal government on distribution of cash palliatives. More details can be found on page 22. More tough policies will be implemented to reposition government for productivity, a statement coming from President Tinubu. We have achieved 64.1% financial inclusion, a statement from the CBN. You can find more details of that story on page 16. Court orders Okowa to account for over 200 billion naira education funds and allocation. Apabio expresses hope in ministerial nominees to ease hardship of Nigerians. More details can be found on page 23, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch. NLC insists on Wednesday strike mobilize workers. You can find detail inside the paper. Kanu returns to DSS custody after check-up by personal doctors. 15 ministerial nominees submit credential ahead of screening. You can find more of that story on page 30. The big story for the Punch uncovers CBN NMPCL mess. Economics and Group tells Tinubu special investigator. The writer here says Tinubu appoint Obazi special investigator, EFCC, police, and others to join the probe. Investigators to go after ex-Buhari appointees, private individuals hiding government funds. I wish them all the best as they do that. And I hope that when they get this resource, they will not have another group of people, looting all of these things. We have the picture story here showing us Niger coup plotters dismiss ECOWAS threat. We have Bazoum restatement. You can find more detail of that. That is the president of Nigeria with other leaders during the emergency meeting concerning that. And we have NDLEA naps Lagos nightclubs, drug suppliers, government warn operators. You can find that on page 5 and 6. Still on the Punch newspaper, Operation Flush. There we have 88 robbery suspects arrested in Lagos. Clampdown continues. Also coming from NATEP, it says over 2,000 Nigerian girls stranded in Mali. That was before we are having on Libya. Now we are having in Mali, and we saw a number of people that have even died in the sea as a result of illegal, immigration.
Yeah.
So quite a lot is going on. We hope that we begin to do something so we can have our girls staying back. Most of them fall victim to human trafficking, sexual abuse, domestic violence, and the likes of that. So we hope more is being done to curtail that. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, starting with the big story, economy, rule of law, foreign policy, security, top agenda for nominees. You can find more details on page 6. We have Niger coup leaders warn ECOWAS as commission imposes sanction. Native doctor pays 350 million naira ransom, recounts kidnappers and killing of 20. Tinubu commends AIG Foundation for Civil Service Development. Unemployment concerns a 7-firm lost 624 billion naira to naira depreciation. You can find more details on page 11. NLC mobilizes mid-civil society ahead of Wednesday action. Anti-corruption, Tinubu appoints special investigator, probes CBN-related entities. Presidential Tribunal, INEC, Tinubu, Atiku, Obi to adopt final addresses tomorrow. More details can be found on page 3. And we have a picture story showing key expectations from Tinubu's government and cabinet, where we can see the ministerial nominees addressing insecurity challenges and economic revamp and poverty education, foreign policy, and respect for rule of law. We are looking forward to that, in as much as so far the government haven't started with respecting rule of law. Neither any of that have been going on well, but we're looking forward to seeing what they will do about it. And that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
Rachel, you took that word right out of my mouth, especially when it comes to the respect of rule of law. And happy they say key expectation from Tinubu's government and his cabinet. So these are things we are expecting. Of course, I think there is a paper I took where we saw that Islamic cleric against the nomination of El-Rufai. Sheikh Hussaini also, the former senator of Kaduna Central, is also against the nomination of El-Rufai. We're beginning to see people speaking out against certain ministerial nominees that were being nominated, and we're still having a number of the pictures, and I hope more probe will be done to see some of their background check. Let us see what did they do in their own capacity, either as ex-governors. Of course, we keep having ex-governors keep trooping, lobbying for their names to be in the nomination list. But if you ask me, I don't think you need to lobby to be there. If you have what it takes,
if you have what it takes,
you don't need to lobby to actually be there, because the president will know that you have what it takes to rule or to actually lead in this place. So we hope to see the rule of law. We hope to see them fighting for insecurity. We hope to see that poverty will be reduced to a minimal. Of course, a lot of policy, we've said this over and over, we'll not get tired of saying, we keep repeating it. The fact that some of the policies are anti-people, but if we're talking about tough policy and that Nigeria needs to sacrifice, I keep repeating, and I will keep repeating, our leaders need to sacrifice too. And let us see them in either cutting the cost of governance, because that is the number one thing we should see, and a lot of things. So, and I hope that the money that was supposed to share to the 12 million households, we're yet to hear anything. I don't know what the committee has doing about that. The $800 million, we are still yet to hear what is happening about all of that. So we hope to see all of these things being done. That is the only way we know that truly the law is being respected from our leaders down to even the smallest person. Of course, another thing that breaks my heart is what we're seeing on employment concern. A 7-firm lose 624 billion to naira depreciation. Of course, with this strike, a lot of people are laying off staffs.
They are. So like
a lot of people are
small
becoming
businesses
unemployed.
are closing. And whether we like it or not, in as much as we see these small scale and medium enterprises around, you will walk into a small business and you will see 2 people being employed. You will see 3 people, depending on the size, at least. Even the small shops we have in our area, you see 1 person being employed. You will see that there is a sales girl, there is a sales boy. There's just 1 or 2 people gaining employment by these small businesses we have around. And we have millions of them across the country. So imagine if, let's say, for instance, we have 1 million sellers and they all have been able to employ one person. Let's put it that way. And now we have half of it, that's 500,000 closing down. Whether we like it or not, we now have 500,000 people out, yes, unemployed. So as little as these businesses might be, they still add up to the employment rate in the country. So when they are affected, they definitely will add to the unemployment rate in the country. So yes, there are businesses closing down, and then something needs to be done about it. And as it is now, more will close. That is the sad part, because nothing is picking up yet regarding the economy. So we should just brace ourselves for more rather than because it feels everything is going to be long term. So I think we should just brace ourselves for more. Things are not going to change anytime soon. That's the truth. That's one reality Nigerians should settle down for, because the government have made it clear that they're not going back on subsidy removal. So yes, we still have more businesses that will shut down. So I think Nigerians should just keep bracing themselves for the impact of whatever will come in, and we hope that the government step in where they need to regarding reducing the hardship on Nigerians.
So I wonder, Richard, how would the poor break then? Well, let's take this break. Quite a lot to talk about, looking at what NLC saying there. We're not going back on the Wednesday strike, which is for August 2nd. We're seeing that the presidential tribunal coming up tomorrow, where we have the various petitioners to be there in the court. Also, quite a lot looking at some of the policy. The federal government say they will be adding more. And then quite a lot for you to actually choose right. But then let's go to the break, and when we come back, we'd love to hear what your take is or your thought is concerning any of the story. Please stay tuned with us.
If people are engaged with happenings in their country, they will better understand where the government is going wrong.
And once they do, they are better equipped to combat the problem as well as prefer solutions.
On Nigeria Now, every Monday to Friday at 3:30 p.m., we bring you
analysis of happenings in politics,
crime,
security,
and government policies.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still the Dailies on Network Television. We've been looking at quite a number of stories on the paper. That of the issue of the coup in Niger Republic, where there was an emergency meeting with some of the leaders, and also in attendance we had that of the president of Nigeria, who is the chairman of ECOWAS, with other leaders that join him to see what they can do about that. Also, we have NLC saying that they are not going back on the August 2nd strike and protest that will be starting on that day. So Nigeria need to brace off themselves, because they need to stock their home with drugs and also foodstuffs. So the question is, where will Nigerians get the money to do all of that in the midst of the hardship that is going on presently? So we'd love to hear your take on that. Our number is displayed on your screen. Please do well to call us. And remember to turn down the volume of your TV set when you call us, and be very civil. No matter what is going on right here, the only way we can, provide solution is when we sit down and talk with love to each other. So please, we implore you to please keep the tempo, the temperature down, the emotions and all of that, and let us hear what you have to say about that. I still have Rachel Tenzi with me in the studio. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this. All right, before the calls come in, let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper. Banks' credit to government rises by 71.46%, hit 31.23 trillion naira. You can do it to start reading the story on the front page. We have some few writer here that says surging government credit can crowd out private sector. This is coming from financial expert and also coming from Finch. Nigerians bank face risks. All right, let's take the score. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning.
Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Good morning. What's the name? Where are you calling
Hello,
from?
Sele. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Sele and Rachel?
We're great,
We're
sir.
fine. Good morning.
Yeah, Shaman calling from Kaduna.
All right, please go ahead, Shamal.
Honestly, my sisters, Nigerians have been taken for granted. The government of the day do not have the subject at heart. I don't know. We have government, but we don't have governance. You can imagine this government will continue to tell, or our leaders will continue to tell us to be patient. When shall we die in poverty before this government can act? Nigerians are suffering, my sisters. Everybody is aware of what is happening in this country. Livelihood is not easy to come by. You hardly see families feeding 2 square meal, talk less of 3 square meal, my sisters. Nigerian, we are suffering. Tinubu came in, people saw it in him that he was coming to rescue Nigeria from the suffering we've been suffering from Buhari since 2015. But the reverse is the case to what we are seeing in this country. Shall we continue suffering that President Tinubu keep on telling us that we should be patient? For God's sake, I don't know where we are driving at in Nigeria. Opera will get it right in this country. Nigerians are not finding it funny. My sister, to go to your place of work today, your salary will finish in a week on transportation. Is that what we bargained for? Opera will get it right in this country. Nobody is smiling. Everybody is frowning at the government. Opera, the government will get it right with us. Good morning. Honestly, I'm not happy this morning. I'm never happy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, Shama, for that
Yes,
contribution.
we truly hope that our government will get it right because nobody is smiling, selling. Nobody will say they are smiling. We can only, just as you said, make a joke out of the things, maybe because laughter eases the pain and just takes you out of reality. But in the real sense, nobody is smiling. And I really pray, and I join Shamal in his prayer, that we hope that our government gets it right.
Of course, Rachel. Well, let's take a look at still the New Telegraph newspaper. Other stories here coming from the World Bank. Nigerian electricity assets grew by 12.3% in 20 years. You can find more detail of that story on page 8. On the paper, we have ex-governors hold all A's in Tinubu's administration. And then on the issue of the PEPC, that's talking about the tribunal election. We have prediction, journeys embarrassing. This is coming from Atiku. And then we have Lagos identify and destroy affected animals are still on the issue of anthrax. You can find that on page 5 and 28. And we have Kanu not released, only granted access to personal doctors coming from a source. The big story on New Telegraph say revenue generation. Federal government goes after own asset fraudulently procured. Files motion for stay of executive on 2A Osborne Road, Ekoyi property. You can find more of that story on page 2. All right, please go ahead, sir.
It's barely about 3 months on office, when the governor have already collected almost 38 billion without any project. And all he can do is just to be there fighting his people who voted him inside the office. Means that there is no democracy. In a democracy, when somebody can say, okay, I don't want to go to open my store, just I want to sit down, you now start filling the shop. It means that there is no law in Nigeria all the time. Things are happening. Lot of things are happening, and even governments are not taking care of it. So-called government president, what are the actions concerning that matter? Everybody, there is a freedom of life. There is freedom of life. Now we are imposing law because you are a new governor. 3 months in office. You have already embezzled almost 38 billion. Now, no any project that have been going on in Enugu now. And all he can do is just to go and get people be massacring his people. It's uncalled for. Let us try the spirit. Nigeria are so tired of what is going on. Let them, I don't know whether the international body can even come in for this matter because the situation of people in Nigeria now are not safe. People are not safe again. People can come out and be threatening people with guns and nothing can be done. People can come out be threatening about war and nobody can say anything. But they go about arresting innocent souls. Please, I don't know, but things are going wrong in Nigeria. Things are going wrong. Everybody are saying it. Things are going wrong. Let the government come up on that matter. Thanks and God bless.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Still a New Telegraph newspaper. We have coming a probe. Tinubu appoint Obazi special investigator of CBN-related entities. Still on the paper, major illegal oil refinery sites in Delta uncovered. You can find more on page 3 and 5. President ministerial list assemblage of recycled anti-democratic politicians coming from the Labour Party. NLC to Nigeria, stop lamenting. Join us on Streets Wednesday. You can find that on page 4, 5, and 25. ECOWAS give Niger military 7 days to restate Bazoum. Imposes military, economic, and other sanctions on Juta. You can find that on page 2. And we have a study that says not brushing teeth at night can be deadly. You want to find out why it's deadly? Do well to read detail of that on page 27. And that's on a New Telegraph newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, youth break into Nema warehouse in Adamawa, steal maize, rice, mattresses, and others. 25 suspects arrested. Government imposes 24-hour curfew. Nema moved to secure warehouse in Kaduna and environs. More details can be found on page 8. Now we have CBN's currency floating policy will kill the Naira. Statement coming from O.A. Lawal.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
We are in Nigeria, and I think all of us are happy now. We are seeing what is going on. We are dancing, we are clapping, some are crying, some cannot even see food eat. We are still dancing. And somebody is telling us that he's seeing positive result on what he has been doing. It's well with us. It's only God that can make things better. But he used human being to do it. God will not come from heaven to do it here for us. It's only that we are compromised people. We don't want to see God. By the way, what is happening about the subsidy, palliative, and all the rest of it? We can see the result in Adamawa now. We all know that it will going to spread to other states, whether we like it or not, because the subsidy removal is biting harder and harder. Even you, who are looking very beautiful, are not no matter what, you're in Nigeria. When you get out of the studio, how do you go? Do you have fuel in your car, or those who give you lift? How do they come about the fuel? The fuel is still, the price is still going on. So, who bears the cat? And those who have been listed for or nominated for ministerial appointment and all the rest of it, we can call it a superb recycling. No better thing that will come out from those ex-governors, because when they were in the office, what did they do? Were they able to uplift their states? Now they are bringing them to the federal. To do what? It's just to have a good time, enjoy themselves, comradeship. After all, Baba is there. They will go there and sing hallelujah. Everybody go his way. After 4 years, they will recycle some of them again, and the beat continues. Nigeria is going down and going down and going down. Nobody cares. We resort to ethnic cleansing and profiling and all the rest of it. We are only telling what the common man in this country is asking is that let there be better days. As Otami said, let the poor man breathe. Is it not time for us to breathe? Is that question, is it advice, is it bad? Poor man needs to breathe. I think something has to be done. We are now getting to talking talk about Niger. What is happening here? We cannot take care of Nigeria. We are talking of Niger.
All right,
Niger
thank you so much, sir.
They are sovereign state. Let them take care of themselves there. It's an internal matter. Why do we want to intrude to another country when our country is not stable? It's not even on fire. Nigeria should be careful. Nigeria should go for self redefinition and re-examination. What are we doing here? Please, I'm tired. I don't want to take you so much or take much of your time. I thank you so much, my dear Rachel. I love this.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your contribution.
God bless both of you and
Thank
the
you.
session. I thank God
All right,
for
please
all
just
of you.
go ahead
And have a
with the
great
paper.
day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go
Still on
ahead
the
with
papers,
papers.
on Nigerian Tribune, CBN's currency floating policy will kill the naira. Statement coming from O.A. Lawal says IMF, World Bank out to destroy naira with floating policy. Recommend manage currency system. The big story on the paper, Tinubu orders probe of CBN, names Obazi as special investigator, directs him to work with relevant security anti-corruption agencies, demands report on public wealth with corrupt individuals and establishments. You can find more details on page 11. Rising cost of living, UBA improves staff welfare. Obey Appeal Court dismissed PDP's petition, Sani tells Tribunal. Judgment in Enugu Guba favors Kaduna Governor. You can find more details on page 22. We are set for screening of ministers coming from Senate. We are waiting for your screening also. You can find more details on page 23. ECOWAS give Niger coups 1 week to reinstate president, imposes land air border closure to use force if deadline not met. We have Niger military warns against intervention. At the downside of the paper, although APC comments Tinubu over nomination of Tunji Ojo, more details can be found on page 23, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On Daily Sun newspaper, LP fall choice of ministers says Nigeria deserves better than recycle force. Vow to challenge submission of incomplete list. You can find that on page 27. The big story, NLC adamant on mass action and strike, says no going back on August 2nd date, dispatches official to zones for final mobilization. Kalu, others plead for suspension of action. You can find detail on page 6. Still on the paper, we have for 3 years running Zenith Bank named Best Commercial Bank in Nigeria. There we can see them collecting their award in France, and the next pictures there, the president holding a meeting concerning the coup in Niger Republic. Finally, DSS allows Nnamdi Kanu access for to a private doctor. Coalition of pro-Biafra groups back IPOP leader on order to end seat at home. You can find that on page 4. We still have ECOWAS give Niger Republic coups 1 week to restate the president may use force. You can find more detail on page 29. We also have Tinubu appoint special investigator to probe CBN amid Emifele's trial. Downside of the paper, Northern Group call for protest over hunger in the region. We can find that story on page 6, and that's all on Daily Sun newspaper.
On this day newspaper, double honor for Zenith at London Stock Exchange as bank retained 2 awards. We have adjudged Best Commercial Bank, Best Corporate Governance Bank in Nigeria. Falana to federal government, NLC's planned protest does not violate any law nor court order. Federal government honors civil servant for saving Nigeria 7 trillion naira in litigation. More details can be found on page 6. As 100 naira arbitrage emerges in forex exchange market, EIU predicts return to dual exchange rate before year end. There are writers under the story, and you can find more details on page 10. The big story on this day: ECOWAS orders Niger junta to reinstate our state president in 1 week or be forced out. Mills' other action of demand not met imposes sanction. Don't send troops here, coup leader warn regional leadership. Military action may be counterproductive or peace-proof ones. You can find more details inside the paper on page 3. We have a picture story still showing Zenith, best commercial bank, best corporate governance bank. We have a story that says Atiku flays economics intelligence, unit prediction in 2023 presidential election. And you can find the details inside the paper, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
On the leadership newspaper, Reps Committee fallout, storm gathers in APC as Speaker jets out. You can find that on page 7. ECOWAS give Niger junta 7-day ultimatum to quit. You can find that also on page 7. We also have cost-low CNG conversion as alternative auto fuel. Still, we have leadership postponed conference on drug abuse. You can find that story inside the paper. And on world finance, Zenith retain best commercial bank award. Tinubu appoints special investigator to probe CBN. And we have the big story that says moribund companies dot not amid insecurity and infrastructure decay, where we have 10,000 naira, 10,000 policy somersault world situation, 10,000 jobs lost in Borno State. And then in the last 44 years, industrialization in most northern states of Nigeria has experienced a gradual but steady decline. And we have in 12 of the 19 northern states, 84 companies have so far closed shop. And we have sales of NASCO products, which is one of the largest employers of labor in the north, has dropped from 70% to 30%. This is really a sad one. By the side here, we have states with less industry present, which is Adamawa, Kebbi, Jigawa, and Taraba. And it's quite sad that Adamawa, no wonder we had people going there to loot for mattresses, generators, and foodstuff. It's quite sad. We're looking at what NASCO, when, someone was just saying that recently he was having a chat with one of the staff there in NASCO, and she was saying that they cannot afford to keep some of the staff that are there. Cost of production is very high.
Yes.
And then, in fact, it was even more profound to me, because if you start consuming some of their products, you would notice that the ingredients have dropped down drastically. Just within the weekend, for those who are able to afford bread, you will see that even the ingredients of bread is now going down. Bread that was normally very rich, puffy and very nice now. So it's quite a sad one looking at industries folding up, and if care is not taken, more will fold up. So I hope something is really done about that, Richard, before the end of the year.
Of course, Sele, we've lived in Jos. We've known NASCO at its peak. We knew what its products were like, how it tasted, and how good it was. It was a largely consumed product within here, and I believe 2 other states, and I like this statistics showing what it was in the north. And truly, we can say that they were products we knew and now are no longer in the market. We can start mentioning them, but you out there listening and watching can attest that there was one time this very good product and now it's no longer out there in the market, and this explains a lot to consumers out there. So yes, and we can see that these numbers are not about to go down, they are only going to increase. So much work needs to be done, and it's scary in a lot of ways, Sele, because we don't even know where it's going to land us or where we're heading to, but we're just hoping that the best will come out of all that is happening in the country.
Honestly, Rachel, thank you so much for always doing this with me.
It's always a pleasure, Sele.
Thank you to our callers who call in on the show. Thank you to the crew members and each and everyone that have been supporting Echo Television thus far. Until we come here again with another package of the Dailies, so have a blessed week ahead.